Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This episode is brought to you by The Wellness Paradigm, a holistic health coaching company shifting the way that women understand and heal their bodies. Through bioenergetic testing, functional lab testing, and functional nutrition, we uncover what traditional approaches often overlook, so you can stop guessing, start healing, and finally feel like yourself again. No more one size fits all protocols, just real answers, deep rooted healing, and the clarity and confidence you deserve to feel incredible. It's time to shift the paradigm of women's health. Now, on to our show. And good morning, Elizabeth.
Hello.
And this morning we have a very special guest from Canada joining us, Elizabeth, who is a certified holistic women's health coach and holistic doula, who's going to bring some really interesting insights about, well, really all things around oh, women. And I'm excited to kind of dive in and tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got started, in this women's health space.
Well, I always like to go with you want long story or short story? Ah, and I'll kind of go the medium-sized version, but as you said, I am a holistic doula and women's health coach. I help women in the reproductive years from fertility all the way to menopause. And I started with this work because when I was 11, I got my first period and I was super excited. Like it was like the best thing ever. My uncle was in the mall and I told him, I'm like, oh, you won't believe what happened to me today. I got my period. And he was like shell shocked by like just being told by this little niece that he sees like maybe three times, five times a year. Like, oh, too much information. But, I don't have a filter sometimes. So it is what it is. So ever since then, I really loved it. I was reading a lot of like pregnancy books and women's health books, and my librarians, they were like, "Oh, what's going on with this girl over here? Like, why is she so obsessed with it?" So I'd always thought that maybe I'd get into midwifery or maybe even be an OBGYN. But unfortunately, I don't act really quickly on the spot with information. So I was like, if there's an emergency, we're all going to be looking like chickens with our heads cut off, being like, ah, what do we do? So I thought for the safety of everyone involved, including myself and, mother of babies in the future and all over the world, I just was like, it's probably better if I don't get into that space. So I decided that, I was just going to wait till I have some kids. And that's how I went into business. And I was failing all my classes of business school. I hated it, especially when they were bringing up way too many fractions and like things. I was like, what does this have to do with running a business? But so then I decided to quit that when a local mom in my doula group, or in my homeschooling group, actually, because I was homeschooled, she had said that she was a doula and they were having a sale on this course or whatever. So that's how I ended up getting into doula work. And since then, it's been the best thing ever because it is my passion. It's something that really lights me up. And even though I was failing business school, I decided to open my own business. So, what a catch 22 kind of thing.
That's so different though, what you hear in school versus like real life entrepreneurship.
Exactly, exactly. And it hasn't been as hard as the math questions in there. And if not, I'm very grateful. My daddy still helps me. So I just be like, Dad, I need you.
So, what about doula work specifically drew you in?
Well, our main pillars for doula support is emotional, informational, and physical support. And I love education and teaching. I'm also a preschool teacher. So the educational side, informational side was really my jam. Because of my own health and everything, I've always felt like I had to do the research to figure out what's going on because there wasn't someone on my side. And I really wanted to help other people with that education kind of being given pretty much freely to them. That's why I try to speak a lot of online and help like with podcasts like this because I just love to teach. So the more information we could get out there about our bodies, I just find it so beneficial. So that kind of was one of the really big things that I was like, yes, that's awesome. And I just think women are super cool. So it was like I get to work with women all the time and like talk about all the things that people say are TMI. I'm like, those are two great things that just really, really set me afire.
Yeah. So, doula work is becoming a lot more popular. But I feel
Yes.
like there's still some maybe misinformation, some stigma around it. So I'm curious, like, what are some of the things that typically come up when somebody is maybe a little bit, um, not sure if doula is like the right, next step for them?
Well, a lot of the times I have had conversations where they thought it was a midwife or the same as a midwife.
Mhm.
So if you ask most doulas, that's the most commonly like
Yeah.
misinterpretation a little bit. So I often like will hear even like in my local area, these older people, they're like, "Oh yeah, my daughter had a doula." I'm like, "What did the doula do?" And she's like, "Oh, she helped, get the baby. They were at home." I'm like, "That's a midwife." Sorry, I hate to burst your bubble, but they're two different roles a little bit again.
Yeah.
So having to explain that is a constant one because oftentimes people will Google up doula thinking it is a midwife, and you do even have to explain to them, like, do you know what a doula is and what is our role? Tell me in your opinion. So that way you don't have to really treat them down bad a little bit, but you're getting their intake, and then you can help correct them on what's true and what's false a little bit. Another big one is people often think that we're mainly for like single moms or home births, where we can help with both of those cases, but we've also more hospitals are now allowing us into operation rooms for like C-sections, and there are more like we're often in the hospitals and we definitely help people who are parents. I mean, there's even some doulas that specifically help people in, poly or queer families that have like a whole different kind
Mhm.
of family dynamic a bit. So it's not just for a one type of person that's maybe like missing a birth partner in that space.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like there's so much more to it. Which leads me to a next question is like, what are the specific things that people really find beneficial when hiring a doula?
Well, I think the biggest benefit is the physical support. I think they find a lot of help, like especially like in the case of a birth, for that instance, you're helping a lot with comfort measures and you position changes, or just even having someone there that is really helping you. Because with nurses, they change all the time, doctor shifts, like whereas the doula, 99% of the time, they are there with you from like early labor all the way till baby is born, and having that constant is a very like familiar. When we're in a lot of fear, that kind of slows things down. So if you're always like, oh, now there's a new person and I have to get all comfortable with someone, this can help. That can help make labor stall. So having always someone that is on your side, that's really there the whole time, that can make it more familiar and more safe, especially in the case of a hospital birth.
Yeah, that's a big one. Just feeling safe. Yeah. Um,
Yes.
and especially, would you find that most of the people that you, now things change with birth, but that hire you want to go more of like the unmedicated route, more of like, you know, still maybe a hospital setting, maybe a home setting. I'd be curious on the different like dynamics on what people are.
I've I've had quite a few clients that have the goal and intention of having an unmedicated birth, and then things change
Yeah.
as it happens. And after a little while, that once you get into the thick of it, as I like to say, they face a different tune. And so, of course, I come from a place with no judgment, so it doesn't matter to me if you choose to have an epidural or you don't. Or I had one client that went with a mix of fentanyl and morphine for their delivery. So whatever method you need to just kind of help yourself. I do find that people who look for a doula want that extra backup support to help advocate for what they want, in a sense where they think they might have to fight harder for that kind of delivery type. Um, but overall, I mean, I've attended all the different type of births. So I've definitely seen a lot more in the case where it was like, I really want that, and then it changes later down down the road.
Yep, understand that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're like, I personally have not given birth yet, so I don't know, maybe my tune will change as well. But when you have no previous experience from it, your take on it is like, well, I really want this, but you don't know what's going to happen till you get to that point. And so I always try to tell people, I'm like, if you keep an open mind a little bit, things might always change. Sometimes there's like a like code word if you really want, or some people set up like, oh, if by 6 centimeters, would you like to check in and like see how you're doing with everything and go from there. So some people just really like that, openness to the idea of what might happen.
Yeah, well, and I think too, when you're in the heat of the moment, having somebody there that knows what your wishes are and reminding
Yes.
you too of like, hey, this is what you had wanted when things got hard. We're just reminding you we can change that. But, you know,
Yeah.
it's hard when you're in the heat of, I mean, I did unmedicated for 20 hours of mine and then ended up getting an epidural and that failed. And I ended up having an emergency C-section. But,
Oh
it was
my.
oh yeah, it's a fun story of 34 hours of labor and tachysystole and all of the things, um but it's just like understanding like one of the reasons for me, and I didn't have a doula. I thought about it. I think subconsciously I was like, I'm gonna get a C-section maybe. I don't know. I feel like my intuition was just like, oh, now it could have still been helpful. But one of the big things I feel like on mitigating birth trauma is just being seen and heard
Yeah.
and just having somebody on your side. And I had a very supportive partner, but it was like I felt with all the trauma I had, I was like peace because I felt like at least my I was had midwife saw me, heard me, respected my wishes. But when things started turning, we needed to take alternative measures, and I was okay with that because I felt that a lot of people don't get that. And I
Yeah.
think that's where having, a doula or, somebody in that space is just can be really helpful, even if in the moment you end up, you know, having things change in your birth plan. But it's like knowing you were supported, and somebody was there kind of subconsciously or physically holding your hand the whole time,
Yes.
is really helpful.
Well, I will never forget this one story from my very first doula client. She had worked in a lot of like heavy duty lifting, and like her hands were very calloused from all of her hard work. And she wanted to hold my hand as we walked down the hallway. She's like, "Oh, you have such soft hands." She's like, "I don't think I've felt such soft hands." So she really wanted me to like touch her like on her back, and because she liked the idea of the softness of my hands. And it's also weird now that I talk about it, but it really like in that moment that was her like, oh, I'm having a contraction. So she knew she wanted me to like kind of, rub her shoulder or like run my hands down her arm just to kind of like distraction a little bit. So she moved towards like instead of focusing on the pain, I want to feel the sensation of maybe you brushing your finger against like my hand, or like when you're almost got like a feather touch. So it really does kind of also depend on in the moment sensations that might make you feel good, because like you're like, oh, we've got this. And I was just talking to someone else about this too, that they really had an essential oil that they really like the smell of, and they were discussing how she was certain she was going to use that her entire labor. She smelled it. She was like, this is going to make me puke. I don't ever want to smell that again. So, like your plans are completely changeable. That's why I always say that birth plans are like more of like a guideline and to support you, just so that you know all the different options. Whereas, you're not going to know exactly what you're getting into, 5 months before things start and when you're in the heat of
So true. That's funny about the essential oils. I definitely packed mine and then I was like, nope,
touch them.
not gonna touch them. Like,
Yeah.
it's like could care less. Don't bother me with them. Yeah, it's just even my birth chrome. I was like, nah. But yeah, everybody's different. Every birth is different, and I know some doulas also work postpartum. Do you work
Yeah.
postpartum with them as well?
Yes. So a lot of my packages do include like the birth and the postpartum like together as a whole. Because I work for like the first training I took was for fertility, birth, and postpartum.
Mhm.
So I kind of learned the whole kind of cycle in a sense for motherhood. And from there I've expanded to go on to menopause and like just continue the learning as much as possible to help women. But postpartum, I find that oftentimes when you're being hired for just that, it is really a lot about the loss of extra support in the family dynamic. So if you're not having maybe you're estranged from family members, or maybe you don't have a lot of close friends, you need that extra hands-on support that can really help you like, oh, I'll help with the laundry a little bit, or I'll help, make breakfast so that you can go take a shower, or you can rest a little bit because baby's napping and I'll keep an eye on him or her. So it really, it depends on like where you are in your life that you might need it. Some people, if they have a great, strong family dynamic where your mom's going to come 3 days, 4 days out of the week to help you, and then somebody else is going to take the other days, you might be less needing of that in like postpartum support.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a delicate time too. It's just there's a lot of hormones, a lot of emotional, things. I again, I didn't hire anybody postpartum, but I feel like I would definitely want that person to be with me that whole journey,
Yeah.
and coming into that family a little bit new. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I feel like there's a beautiful, element to already kind of understanding emotionally like where you might be at, and then seeing too
Yeah.
things change emotionally like postpartum and being able to almost like I don't want to say be on alert for it, but just like, help support
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, well, I think definitely there are more people that hire for like more of a full cycle of it because, like you said, wanting to know that person before. And then there are many people who just hire postpartum support. And in those cases that I've helped people, I always like do one meeting beforehand. And that's often where they like to show me their nursery and like, oh, this is where the kitchen is. And they give you like family, like kind of like a house tour a little bit. And oftentimes you just, because you're already at most times when you're being hired, you're like right before your due date. So, you're getting excited. You want to talk about it. So I often get to learn a lot in that one visit prior to the birth to
Yeah.
help them. And then from there, coming into that space, just being like, okay, where am I needed the most? And sometimes you really have to be like, oh, just jump in and take this item. Whereas other people, they're like, it's all organized. They want this done, that done.
Yeah.
I need your help here. They know what they want. And so trying to differentiate the two, you can always tell that some people are very like, oh, because she's coming, I've got to try to clean or make things organized. And your biggest thing that you've got to try to stress is that me coming in, I don't care if, you've got, like, I live on a farm. So I'm like, I don't care if you've got straw all over the floor. Like, it's all good.
Yeah. I mean, a few weeks after you, or a few days after you give birth, the first thing isn't, I'm going to go clean my house. Um,
Yes.
but women, I swear, it's like they just want to jump back into the way that we're like, it's like, this is a healing, a very delicate time in your life, for not only just emotionally, but very physically too. Um,
Well, we've got a very big bounce back culture this day and age
right.
where it is obsessed with this 6 week thinking that 6 weeks, oh, I'm better, everything should be back to normal.
Mhm.
But I like to always tell people that you have actually gone through a life changing moment. So
Yeah.
I like to always say you have the portal of life in between your legs. And, some people, some women say that when they give birth, they feel like they've lifted from their body and then they come back and baby's there. And when I hear these stories, I always try to tell people like maybe you don't fully experience that during your birth, but that is like how shifting it is because it's an entirely new experience, regardless if it's your first or your third or 10th birth. It's always going to be different because you are changing in that moment. It's a new family dynamic. There's a huge shifts happening. So your thinking of things going back to normal is very well off skewed a little bit because you just can't get back to that place that you were. Plus, your body needs way more than 6 weeks. Like to heal, you probably need like a whole year almost afterwards to fully support all the changes that are going on in your body, especially if you're breastfeeding. Like, there's just so many different steps that you're like, 6 weeks is not enough at all.
Yeah. Oh gosh, no. I mean, that could be a whole episode in and of itself.
Yes.
But you're absolutely correct. I'm curious with births and with being a doula, sometimes births are really early. Sometimes they're a little late. Like how do you make that all work?
Well, I somehow don't know how. Because honestly, I am a very planner person. Like I like an organized calendar and I started doing birth and I told mom I'm like I hate not knowing when when this is coming. Like the on-call feeling of like any moment jumping up. Like you feel like you're prepared almost at any moment. So
Yeah.
like I'm a very routine in the evening by like 7:30 I'm watching a movie. I'm chilling, I'm just relaxing. And I've had 3 births that have called me during that movie. So now I'm like on a higher alert during movie time that I'm like, oh, that phone's gonna ring and I'm gonna have to get up and get ready. But you're constantly having like a preparedness to everything. So if you go, like I bring a doula bag and it's pretty much a suitcase. So everywhere I go, the joke is always, oh, are you moving in? And I wish I had a picture of it, but I had a suitcase that was literally longer than 2 people's widths side by side. And that was my very first doula bag. And I had the partner had for my very first birth had helped me bring it into the hospital. And one nurse had laughed so hard because she was like, "You look like you're staying for more than a year." Like you've got so much stuff in there because I like it was my very first time. So I was like, I want to be prepared for all cases. I had stuff for mom because I was like, what happens? Like just on so many different things. So I had different outfits and I was like, yeah, I practically moved in. So now, I have more of like a smaller human sized suitcase. And that one is on wheels because I am never ever lifting a heavy case of stuff again. I've learned my lesson. But I always bring like my Rebozo, TENS machine. I have all that stuff. So I really try anytime that I'm on the on-call phase that if I'm not going too far away, it's in the car. So that way, wherever I am, you can immediately go to your next destination. So you always got to try to be prepared. Like I have a rule because we share a family car a little bit. So I say like if you take it and there's a drop of gas missing from full, you better make it full because if I gotta go, I don't want to be worrying about filling up when someone's like waiting in labor. And I live in a very rural area. So a lot of the births that I go to are an hour or 2 hours away. So I need to like early labor. Like I tell them, if you feel a twinge of pain, I'd rather be there for a day extra than, not be able to support you. So it's always like a very go, go kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's an interesting one too. I mean, how many times have people had premature labor or like, just thought they were in labor, called you and then they weren't?
I haven't had too many cases of that. Actually, I don't think I could think of one where it
Oh,
was really earlier than that because normally you're talking beforehand and they'll tell you, oh, okay, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. And so then I tell them, okay, keep me updated. And so then kind of you could already tell after an hour or so if they're still complaining about it or, in most cases, I've actually somehow managed to always come for like real labor. So so
nice.
far, knock on wood. I said it, so now who knows what's
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, knock on wood. I got a wood desktop here. Somebody was, thinking about hiring a doula, was maybe kind of on the fence. What would you tell them?
I always tell them just like look in your area to see what they're posting. We always doom scroll. This is our day and age kind of vibe, and there's so much information out there that they're just sharing that might just relate to you a little bit. So once you get to know like some of the posts, like if you're like, okay, maybe you're in a more populated area, there's like a handful. You pick the ones that you just kind of resonate with a vibe by looking at the first few posts. Give them a follow and just like look through their stuff. You don't have to like some people hire like on the 37th week or sometimes 39 weeks and you could just hire them and if they have an opening
Yeah.
like they'll just support you. So if you need some time to just kind of see, because now that social media has taken a turn more towards videos, we are constantly seeing the language
Mhm.
that we as people give. And that's what I always tell people like, you need to click with a person and really like, because it's a very intimate time and it's a very sacred space. And you really don't want someone in there that you're like, well, I just hired her because, she looked pretty or maybe she was the cheaper option or I always tell people like it will just make the birth more uncomfortable and cause more issues. And so that's why I'm a really, really firm believer that I'm like, look into other options. Like when people are starting the process of talking to me, I ask them, are you interviewing other doulas? And if they tell me no, I'm like, have you looked into other doulas? Because just it's not about a money or a role for me. It's more about you need to find someone that really makes you like happy. And you know how there's just some personalities you click with better. And that's okay. That's needed for birth. You need that personality that, wow, okay, I could see her as a friend. We could hang out for coffee 3 times a week, or, just something along those lines when hiring. So look online. There's so much people that you can kind of see the vibe of them already before even having picked up the phone to call them.
Yeah, I mean, so true. The energy is crucial.
Yes.
Had people fire their doulas in the middle of their birth. So, it's like,
Yeah.
then their biggest regret is I just wish I would have talked to them a little bit more sooner and understood who they were, because it can change.
Exactly.
And they're like, and after I did that and they left, my labor progressed. It's like, yeah, your body was sticking onto that. That
Yes.
not being safe. But anyways, if people wanted to find you or learn more about all of the things that you do, I know we just tapped on the doula work, but
Yeah.
where can they connect with you?
Well, I have a website, so that's fruitfulwomb.ca. And I am also at Fruitful Womb Doula on pretty much everything, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, face, like the usual. You'll probably find it. And my name's pretty unique, so if you type me up, I'm sure you're gonna find me pretty quickly on Google. And I help virtually and in person, so there's like a few different options for everyone out there a little bit.
Awesome. And her name's Elizabeth with an S, not a Z.
Yes. Yeah, makes it unique. It's a very Dutch thing. And I remember my mom, she had found it like because her mother was also Elizabeth, and she didn't know that it was with an S. And so then when they were naming, they were like, "Oh, well, we'll have to go the Dutch way." So make it complicated for everyone. I don't have to say my middle name for everyone. Thank the Lord, because that is even more complicated. Oh,
Elizabeth luckily isn't too crazy. Yes,
yes.
if you find her, it does have an S, as I learned when I was doing my notes. So anyways, thank you for being here, for sharing your wisdom on, doula work, and think it's a topic that's definitely coming more and more light. And so people like you, it's nice to kind of shed that light on. So thank you for being here, and listeners, thank you for being here as well. If you know somebody that's interested in this kind of work, share this with them, and you know, just let them get a little bit more information on this kind of work and reach out to Elisabeth if you're in the area or check out our virtual options. And we'll catch you guys on the next show. Thank you, Elisabeth.
Thank you.